Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we're back. Episode 16 of the 1973 podcast. I'm here with the best tag team in the podcasting business, Thomas, Ed. We coming in a couple days late. I'm going to blame it on Ed. I think he went outside to start his car and caught a cold. Is that what happened?
Sure.
Or was
Wasn't
it,
me. Wasn't me. Wasn't me.
Isn't that a song?
Yeah.
So with that being said, you injured your knee in the Peterborough game, right, Ed?
That's right. Now I settled in my kidneys,
Yeah. That's kind of where I was going. I was trying to lead you with the slap shot reference.
But some of us aren't allergic to the hair. That hair.
Yeah.
The hair.
So
and his allergies have returned from the fans.
Yes. Don't waste all the good comedy. We got a whole half an hour to kill. So we're gonna get right going, and we're gonna get into what we usually start with is this week's email. Not really so much of an email, more of a comment, and I'll let you guys go around with that after it gets it out there.
All right, this is coming from Darren. Darren, good friend of ours back home. Really appreciated the support, and says congrats to everyone on your 15th episode from last week. Keep them rolling. I share the episode on Twitter, so some big sponsors coming. Haha, keep it up, my brothers. Thanks, Darren. We really appreciate it, man. It's nice to have longtime friend giving us support like that. We really do appreciate it. So thank you very much, man. You're good people, man. Thank you.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thanks. Yeah, I just want to say thanks to Darren for the comments. Nice comments, and hopefully people keep supporting us and keep hitting the like button, keep watching. Who knows? Maybe we'll get a sponsor or two somewhere down the line.
Yeah. A lot of things happening over the course of the last 2 weeks. Stuff in the works, stuff we can't really talk about yet. Some other stuff, but the Facebook page has been blowing up over the last week. I couldn't believe how it went from 100 people to 1,500 people within a week. And so, there's some traction there, and, we try to keep up with everything and try to keep up with the comments on YouTube when I see them and when the guys see them. So just keep sending everything, send your questions into the email, and, we're here to have as much fun as possible, and, keeping it very light. It's not malicious at all. We're just trying to have as much fun as we can. Just keeping in touch with the buddies and people that we've maybe we haven't talked to in a while. I know they watch the podcast, and we've gotten a couple of emails from them too. So I appreciate everything. I mean, it's like the little engine that could. We're just here grinding away, but having fun in the process, and we're on a shoestring budget, and I think it's kind of cool in a way.
Shoestring, so. I'm thinking fishing line budget.
Yeah, maybe something even smaller than that. Who knows?
Yeah, you never know. Probably about 5-pound test. Catching those minnows and stuff.
Yeah, so a lot of stuff that we've been trying to touch on. The Stanley Cup's winding down. I'll probably start talking a little bit more other stuff. Kind of heavy on the hockey, since after the Super Bowl, since the playoffs started. So, once football season starts, I'm sure these guys will be all into it with that, and maybe some college stuff too. So, stay tuned week to week, and, let's dive right into the first two games of the Stanley Cup. I was telling Tom I was totally blown away by, the effort from the Knights. They look fantastic. It goes to show you, and I was talking to the Phantom today, goaltending does not win you Stanley Cups. It is a total team effort, because there's been guys that have won Stanley Cups that they've had that one moment in the sun, and it's not like they're Brodeur or Patrick Roy or even Dominic Hasek couldn't get over the hump until he got to Detroit. So as much as they blame my Flyers for not having a goalie to go after Stanley Cups, I think it's all bullshit. I think if you look at where Hill was drafted and the guys that they had to go through to get to him, to get in the lineup, it doesn't always matter to have a stud back there. I think you just need a like-minded individual that's rowing the oars with everybody else on the team and buying in. And there are stories within this Stanley Cup to talk about. You got Quick and Kessel on the bench, and Cassidy's the head coach. And I was telling some people today that is that the thing that was Bergeron and Krejci, David Krejci, the Cassidy guys that he was kind of pushing to the side like Quick and Kessel, and they didn't like that, and they weren't willing to buy in like Kessel and Quick sitting there and watching the young guys play and maybe riding the Stanley Cup. So there's a story there, with the Kachuk stuff, the hits. So if you guys want to take some of that stuff and kind of push it all together and roll with it.
Sure. Now I'm going to jump in here first, Tommy, if you don't mind. I thought that hit last night. That was I thought that was going to be a momentum changer last night. Because I got in a little late from work, and it seemed like the Knights just jumped on them really quick, and I thought that was going to be kind of like that, McSorley hit that happened in the Forum back in '93. Where it kind of, and I believe if that's the one where the glass popped out in the Forum, I think. And you probably remember it, Tom, you will too. My memory's a little bit, sideways and turned upside down, and sometimes the brain doesn't work exactly brain. So
concussion protocol.
That's right. I'm in concussion protocol all my life now. Anyway, but I just thought. I thought that the first game, I thought it went exactly like how I thought it was going to go. I thought that the Knights, they've been playing that grind it, just on it hockey. They didn't have 9 days off, and that kind of went as I expected it to. Last night, it got out of control quick, and but I thought that hit was going to change it, and it didn't. So, Thomas.
Yeah, I tell you, the Knights they're just 4 lines deep. Florida has 4 lines, but not like the Knights, man. They just wear you down. They're just, Florida's out hitting them in both games, but Florida's losing their composure. It's like they're kind of going out of their way and taking themselves out of plays for hits. Not that Kachuk hit. That Kachuk hit was a clean hit. I just think they gave them the penalties to try to calm everything down, but it's just Bobrovsky hasn't played well. Like Andy said, goalies, unless they stand on the head, they're not going to win you the cup, but they can lose you the cup. And his save percentage right now in 2 games is in the low 80%. He's like, it's just, and they're not going to win with Lions.
No.
And I also think that the defense on one of those goals last night, it was like the Red Sea was parting last night. Like all of a sudden that puck went down in the corner, and all of a sudden freaking all 3 guys stepped away from him, and he walked right to the net and just put it in. That's not playoff hockey. That's that's preseason hockey stuff,
Yeah.
And there's no excuse for that at this point in the season. It's the Stanley Cup. Like it really matters. And defensive breakdowns in your own zone, that's just unacceptable. You can't have that in playoff hockey, period.
Yeah. Do you guys care to comment on what I was talking about the Cassidy philosophy that I kind of brought up about the veteran thing? Tom, you want to take that one?
I don't think that had anything to do with the Bruins situation. To be honest with you, I think Bergeron was one of the guys that actually was one of his guys that had the locker room for him. I think what happened was the younger guys kind of revolted, and Bergeron just went with the flow, where he's going to go with the players over the management. Like they say, you're not going to fire the players. So but this shows that Cassidy will play. He doesn't care if you're a veteran. He doesn't care how many years you've been in the league. He's going to put out the people who he thinks he has the best chance to win with.
Go ahead, Ed. Take it.
Just to piggyback on that, that's how you win, right? You put the best players out on the ice, right? If you have 4 solid lines that you just keep rolling over the boards, and each line brings that intensity, and they're all stepping up. And look, and if you have 2 veterans, those guys have won Stanley Cups on the ice, if I am correct. I know Kessel for sure.
Quick.
And so what? Look, you've already won your cup. Like you're bringing stuff into the dressing room about, okay, boys, this is what we need to do, and like they're walking the walk. and they're talking the talk like, look, this is how we're going to win. And look, we don't mind if we're sitting. I mean, Kessel can sit up in the box eating a hot dog,
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't think that it's really hard for him to do that. He's got he's got 2 Stanley Cups. Quick's got 2. Is it Peter Angelo's on defense for them?
Yes.
Doesn't he have a cup with St. Louis?
Yeah.
So it's not like they don't have guys that actually can pump tires if need be, or keep guys, on the straight and narrow if they need to. But I know everybody's all over Eichel for his talent, but my guy on that team is Notcha. So that guy is so much fun to watch. When I went to that game live, and he stood out like that guy. Just if he was on a big market team, more people would know who he is. If he was on Colorado or the Blackhawks or Detroit or the Rangers
or Tampa
or even the Bruins, if the Bruins had him, people would be one of their favorite.
Who got bounced out in the first round?
Bruins Nation, right over here.
Who?
Well,
I mean, don't make me get the megaphone down so you guys can hear me 1,500 miles away.
And the thing is, and I love Las Vegas's whoever does their Twitter is spot on, and they were trolling Florida last night because that's who they got Marchessault from in the expansion draft was Florida, and they actually pulled a thing like from the Las Vegas Knights select from the Florida Panthers Jonathan Marchessault, and I mean I just love that.
Very, very well played. I mean, if you're trolling like everybody should, to have as much fun as possible and rattle cages for the people that are super sensitive, which that's not our crew by any means.
No. They have skin leather, baby.
No. If you've seen some locker room antics and some road trips, you're not sensitive in this group.
Wasn't there an animal that may or may not have been a person that made it look like an animal that killed in a bathtub in Montreal?
Yeah.
I believe that was the hair pants incident.
Oh yeah, there's so many that we could rattle off a list. We could probably do a whole half-an-hour podcast just on those stories.
Oh goodness!
Trips, multiple trips to Canada, dune buggy trips.
Pull over. We want to bless you.
Yeah, all that stuff. So we'll try to stay on the hockey topic, but news went through the NHL that a lot of people weren't too happy with Babcock coming back to coach Columbus. I think it made a lot of people really irritated because they think he's kind of a bully. You hear these stories about what he's done to some guys, like the Chelios thing at the Winter Classic and all that other stuff. So with Johnny Gaudreau and Patrick Laine already in Columbus, is that a good fit for Babcock coming back there, or is that just low-hanging fruit?
I think this is low-hanging fruit. I think it's going to end up in a very bad explosion, and I'm going to have my popcorn here. I'm going to just sit here and watch it and enjoy it because my team's not going to be involved.
Yeah. I think out of if you had to put a list of all 32 teams, 33 teams, and put a pecking order of interest, Columbus is way down at the bottom. They have players that I like, but that team does not move me in any way. I think I'd if somebody said you could either go see a game somewhere and you get your pick, I think Columbus would be like one of the last picks. I mean, I'd rather go to Phoenix to see a game than I think I would enjoy myself way more than going to see a Blue Jackets game. And that's just me. Yeah. So I don't see that ending very well. I mean, I think if you're going to bring back a coach with that kind of reputation, you bring back Quenneville before you bring back Babcock. Give him another chance.
No. I mean, I got 2 points to kind of piggyback on it, but kind of shift it a little bit. Hey, you brought up a great point via text message earlier in the week about kind of like that 4th tier kind of thing, that, and also about the possible move to Utah. I want to kind of address that point, which and we'll spin it back to Stanley Cup in a second. But I mean, look, there's no way on a top 4 sport that should not be on ABC. That should be on a major network, even though TNT is now kind of like a major network. It's not like, back, at the Omni in Atlanta,
Yeah, yeah.
it's, I don't think I mean, it should be, when the ratings have dipped the way that they have, I mean, like, why are you putting it on kind of like a second tier cable station? I don't understand that. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, you should really be pushing your media partners, being ABC, and ESPN, like, where it should be able to found. I mean, and so look, I'm a big proponent of Title IX. Look, women's sports have a place too. Not a problem with that. But like, if you can't get on the big network, then you should be on ESPN, and that should be front and center for all 7 games. Period. That's my thought, boys. I'm gonna toss it to you.
Well, I think that I have 2 points with that. I think the Stanley Cup should always be, even if you didn't watch any of the other rounds because you didn't have access to a paid streaming network, or you didn't have 6, 10, and 12 should always have the finals. NBC, CBS, or ABC should always have the finals, no matter what, because there's probably a person like my mother that doesn't have a crap load of cable access or whatever, that would probably enjoy, if she, after Wheel of Fortune Jeopardy is done, that she could just roll right into watching the Stanley Cup, and she would probably watch all 7 games if it went 7, just out of convenience, because
Right.
There's nothing else on, and she's not going to go stream something or watch a series. So for that crowd, especially in Florida, where it's a retirement community, they should have access to that stuff very easily. You should not have to pay to watch the Stanley Cup when it gets that far. No way. It should be accessible to everybody. And the point that we're going to piggyback off of that is the Phantom was telling me that the owner of the Utah Jazz was talking to Bettman, wanting to have a meeting with him, because he says that he can market the Coyotes if they let him have the Coyotes in a way that it's actually more lucrative for an owner to have, let's say, the 42 home games, or the at least 40 home games on regular network TV. They can sell more ads that way than to sell the rights for a season to a streaming network. So with that being said, if he's ahead of the curve with that, why are they still going to, why do you have to download an app to watch your favorite team? Why can't you be able to watch your favorite team, whether it's local or not, easier than having to pay for it? Okay, maybe you want to pay for out of market games or whatever, but if
That's
I'm
different.
Yeah, right.
That's different.
I don't understand it, because if I don't have nothing, but I pay for the ESPN app to watch all the games, I can't watch Bruins games. I got to go through TSN, through the back door to watch.
You go through Canada.
I actually like watching the games on TSN better because they're not so biased, and the announcing's better, and they give you more deeper cuts. When, they give you more inside stuff that, they don't cut away from the national anthem to talk about 20 minutes of bullshit while I want to see the national anthem, especially if Lauren Hart sings in Philly and stuff like that. I get a kick out of that stuff. And, I want to hear her sing God Bless America with Kate Smith. They cut away from that in the U.S. Even if you have the Flyers broadcast in the U.S., they cut away from it. But if I watch it on TSN or Rogers Sportsnet, they show the whole thing. It's crazy. There's a difference between pride and selling just filibustering before a game starts. If you know all the stuff that's going on, if you're following that team. So, Tom, what do you got?
I totally agree with everything you just said, except for the fact that it's Utah, so they're not going to get. They've only got one team, and they've got an NBA team, and they're never going to have a baseball team. I mean, they may have a minor league team, but I don't think anyone wants to go to Utah.
Yeah. Just to stay on the Stanley Cup topic before we roll. Now, next game's in Florida, game 3. If they get blown out, it's going to be a sweep. I'm calling it. Yep. They could have just maxed out all their, series wins and beaten these teams, and it's kind of all for nothing. If you kind of eliminated all the teams and, gave the night's just a layup at the end. I mean, you're getting blown out. You're not even in any of the games close. I mean, I
7-2.
I think the save that Hill made. I mean, that's
Oh
a
yeah.
that's a momentum swing right there. I mean, Cousins had 2 swipes at it. Yeah, I mean, he made the 6th save. He had a second whack at it, and they batted it out of the air, out of the zone. So credit to them the way they're playing. So anything to add to this whole series before we kind of move on?
Yeah, well, this is the game right here for Florida. I mean, if this is the game where they'll get the last change, they can match up a little better if they feel they have a better matchup somewhere. If they didn't do it, like you say, if they don't win game 3, they're done. It's a sweep.
Ed, agree?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I don't think that when you go down 3-0 in Stanley Cup or in a finals, like there's really no coming back from that.
Yeah.
And and I just I really thought that game 1, I thought that it was going to be rink rust anyway, which that's how it played out. But last night was just a total abomination. And and I really thought that hit was going to change the momentum last night. Because big hits like that, there's not like big hits like that in the NHL anymore. Or really in any sports, they're really trying to turn it into powder puff shenanigans and stuff like that. Taking a look at every single big hit, and that's part of the game. You don't skate with your head down. And that's on you, man. Like in any sport, like you play football, you don't run with your head down. You get out on the ice, you don't skate with your head down. I mean, like Grape says, you don't skate through the trolley tracks, man.
Yeah, and it was almost it was almost classic right at the blue line.
Yeah.
So we'll cap off the first 2 games of the cup, and we'll probably, when we reconvene for the next episode, we might have the whole thing wrapped up, so we'll be able to kind of put a bow on the hockey season for the rest of the summer. But with that being said, we're going to talk a little wrestling. We're going to start transitioning over a little bit, and just at perfect time, and the first episode of Dark Side of the Ring dropped, and I'm a big fan of the show. I think they do a great job without having access to a lot of footage, because I know a lot of people don't want to get involved with that, because I guess it's touchy subjects, and they don't want to ruffle feathers, especially if they still have ties to WWE. So first episode was about Chris Candido. The 3 of us saw ECW many times.
Many times.
A lot of good times, a lot of it came through our area once a month. We used to go on the regular. I like Chris Candido. I was a big triple threat guy. Him, Shane Douglas, and Bam Bam. I thought that was one of the best heel groups at the time that nobody saw. So Chris Candido, very likable guy. Grew up a wrestling fan, used to make belts at home, used to buy the wrestling magazines, watch it on TV. Same age as us. He would have been 50 this year, I believe. So it's kind of sad when you look at, how his life went. So I want to get both of you guys, I want to get your takeaways from that first episode. Go ahead.
Ed?
I'm going to toss it to you, Tom.
Okay. Well, I thought it was awesome. I loved how they started out in the beginning, and the story where he and his friend both lied to their parents, saying they were staying at each other's houses. They jump on a bus and they go to wrestle, and then they come back. And then the story itself was really sad. And I mean, I feel really bad for him, because for somebody that was his dream always, was to be a pro wrestler, and then to get it, and then to know what was going on behind the scenes with Sonny and Shawn Michaels and other guys in the back. You can't really say anything or do anything, because it's going to ruin your career, because they are pretty much running the show at that point when that all happened. I mean, it was such a tough spot to go in, and it was such a sad story. And I was reading about how the Dark Side of the Ring, the producers, they wanted to interview Tammy for this, and she couldn't, because she's going to trial for the car accident that killed the lady. So she couldn't talk. She said, I guess she told them on the advice of her attorneys, she couldn't speak. So, but that was one of the really good ones that I've seen. I haven't watched it in a few months, but that one there was really good.
I mean, I remember going, Andy, what was that? The armory that we used to go to right outside of Boston.
Fall River?
No.
Or the one in Waltham?
Waltham. Yeah, I mean, we used to go to Waltham, and I mean, we went to ECW what 4 or 5 times, I think.
Oh, a bunch
Just,
of
I mean,
times.
just
We
you
went to
know,
me and Tom went to Philly twice to that arena, and that was absolute.
Experience.
It
yeah,
is. If you we went there 2 times, and both shows ended up in a riot in the crowd. I mean, you can even see us on the on crossing the line again. The Shane Douglas main event with the Philly cops rushed the stands and everything, and my father was there, and it's funny. It's funny looking back on it now. But
you know, and so I mean, I just, and I forgot how young he was. He died when he was what, 33?
yeah, yeah,
And and to see, like, I mean, I remember seeing him live. I mean, and like being regular sized guys, I mean, and to see some of those guys like with Shane Douglas, I mean, even Taz at 5'8", Taz was like what, 250,
yeah.
and like to see that, at the Waltham Armory and stuff like that, and and to see like all that stuff kind of, you know, with her getting locked, her being there and all the stuff and the drugs and like everybody trying to bang her and everything like that, and people were banging her and stuff like that, and circle back to Tom's point, and like it was going to wreck his career if he did say something, and it kind of circles to another wrestler, like Macho Man, I mean, he, Candido kind of just only had a cup of coffee in the big time, you know, and I mean, there's a reason why Macho Man used to kind of like lock Elizabeth in the room because he knew what those guys were all about in the back, and to see that and to see, and that part when his brother takes us up to the room in the episode and shows like, his artwork and just, I mean, like, look, I mean, I was a complete goofball when I was growing up. And I mean, I had the WWE, wrestling album, you know what I mean? So, I mean, I get it. Like, it's kind of like where I come from, I totally get it, and to have, and like to actually, he actually could like, see his dream. And I mean, I remember seeing him live and, some of those house shows, the guys aren't as crisp, and it's not as refined and it's not quite as fast, but, like, man, he was quick and fast and it was crisp and like you could like, it just flowed really like it's supposed to, and just sad to see that he died at such an early age.
yeah. When they say student of the game, we'll put him in that category because he used
Yeah.
to wear the Terry Funk knockoff trunks, and he would do like a little homage to like different wrestlers that he liked. He would do like the Terry Funk like walk, and he would do the Ric Flair face bump, and he would do a lot of the Roddy Piper kind of like the eye poke and things like that. So there was like a lot of little hints like, hey, if you guys get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. But one of the things that they say about him is kind of like along the Billy Graham thing. He was a little bit ahead of his time because if he was wrestling now at that size, he'd probably be like a world champion in AEW or
Yeah.
even WWE. I mean, with his
Yeah.
skill set and his size, he was undersized then, but he'd probably be decent sized dude now, compared to like
Yeah.
a Darby Allen or an Orange Cassidy or those guys. He could outwork those guys out psychology. I thought that the takeaway for me from that was two things was how it seemed like they wanted Tammy, but they hated Chris, so they pushed him out. It's almost like they pushed him out like to make him leave because they wanted her all to themselves. It almost seemed like that was kind of what the story kind of told, at least from my end. Like he was there and he would love being there, but they kind of like said, "Oh, we don't like this guy," so they got rid of him. So, and that's how he ended up in ECW. But blah blah blah. And my other takeaway was, who the hell was his doctor that told this guy he could fly after a surgery?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody addresses that. Like, you're okay to fly. Everybody knows you can't get on a plane after you have surgery. That's and then he gets the blood clot off a broken
ankle. Yeah.
what? You die at
Yeah.
33 from a broken ankle because you got on a plane to fly home?
But pulmonary embolisms, man, are no joke, man. I know somebody that's pretty close and near and dear to my heart down here. He had an injury on a leg and went in and had it surgically repaired, and surgery went well and everything like that. And 7 days later, I mean, like he was wheezing trying to and he didn't even fly. And and like this dude can bring some heat, man. And he was he was out of breath tying a shoe. I can't imagine, all of a sudden hopping on an airplane, so it's no joke, surgery, surgery,
So we got probably about 5 minutes left. So we're gonna leave a little bit of the wrestling stuff for next week. Tom, we're gonna get you fantasy picks for the week.
All right. I'm going to go right into this week because last week was kind of a bust because the guy I picked for my pitcher got rained out, so only pitched once. So I'm doubling down this week, and I'm going with Shane McClanahan as my player of the week for pitching. He already pitched once. He pitched yesterday against the Red Sox, and he pitched well. He had 13 points, and his next game is, I think, Friday against Texas. I think he's going to end up 2-0. My batter of the week, I'm going ex-Red Sox guy. I'm going with Mookie Betts. He's on fire lately. His last 7 games, he's batting .371 with seven runs, 6 RBIs, 4 stolen bases. So I'm picking Mookie. He's got 6 games for Cincy and Philly, and both of them are bandboxes. So I think he's going to have a big week.
So let's jump right into, because we got about 4 minutes left. We'll go album pick of the week. It's the wrestling album.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man, Land of 1,000 Dances. Hey, look at that.
Stone Temple Pilots Core. It's came out in 1992. The useless fact for this album was that it was named after the apple that was featured in the story of Adam and Eve in the Bible for some reason. And my favorite songs from that album: Dead and Bloated, Wicked Gardening, Creep, Plush, Cracker Man. I mean, that's my favorite, by far my favorite Stone Temple Pilot album.
Yeah, that album was hot when it came out. I mean, there are people that weren't even into grunge that bought that album. They hit it so hot with that first album, and never seemed they never seemed to catch as much heat with any of the other albums after that. And infighting in the band and blah blah blah. Scott Weiland, we know the whole deal. Ed, thoughts on that album?
Oh, I mean, I think it was great. I have to say probably, Dead and Bloated, probably one of my favorite. Creep, I like Wicked Garden, River, Where the River Goes, that type of thing. Just, from top to bottom, there's not really like a hole in that album where you're like, this song, there's not really like a throwaway song, this song sucks. You know what I mean? It's like, skip to the next one, I just thought they did it really, and now if I remember correctly, they played a Lollapalooza, right? And that kind of, I think, really kind of pushed them along, really kind of got them kind of like put that hook in there. And I'd have to say that for the three of us, and the Phantom, this was probably, rolling a hockey kind of music, or let's go to the Strand of Lupo's type of an album, that type of thing.
Or other places on Federal Hill, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I may or may not have been there once or twice in my lifetime.
We should have never have left. Well,
there's a tooth somewhere out there with the tooth fairy just talking it,
That's a whole nother episode.
I believe that man has, he was not air mobile.
That could be our Dark Side of the Ring story right there.
Bleed all over him. Let him know you're there.
Yeah, it was, he's gonna, I think he was going up the river somewhere, he's gonna try to find, Colonel Walter Kurtz. I think that he, I think he gets smacked in the mouth. He didn't zig when he zagged.
We gotta wrap this up. We got about a minute left, so we're just gonna say it was a quick episode. It went by kind of quick. So hopefully we can get another one back to you real quick and make up for lost time. But this is a deep dive week. We had a lot of stuff going on, so we'll make up for it next time. So from the three of us, we'll see you next time.
See you guys.
Yeah.
Hit like.
Yeah, like it.